Hello guys, and welcome back to my new content. We're going to be doing Division 2 build today. It's going to be a skill power build. There's quite a few of these rocking around, and I found that they are all pretty good at getting a good baseline, and I'm going to be expanding on that by telling you the pros, the cons, and the overall build today. And we'll start off by showing you what can be achieved. So we're going to quickly run over to the
over here.
Tiger Dummy and show you how it roughly plays.
Causing potential harm to yourself.
The most important stuff we'll be going over is talents, the mods, the different skills and how they can be used, and all these other things. So let's start off with weapon mods. The most important weapon mod to have will be Lucky Shot. Lucky Shot seems to be working alongside Chem launchers at the moment, and Chem launcher is what you're primarily going to be using when you're coming up against elites and others. You're going to be focusing on keeping out the weapon you have with Lucky Shot. This can be found on the marksman rifles, the rifles, the normal like military in grade 17, and also pistols. I have both a pistol and a rifle at the moment. I would have been using an RPK if I could, but I can't, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame. I also sometimes keep a chatterbox out in case I want to get some extra bullets, but again, this isn't very necessary because your main DPS will be coming from your chem launchers. Other things you will be required will be things that will increase your chance to reset skill cooldowns, such as skilled from your backpack. Also tech support works pretty well for this as well, only if you want to do more damage. I don't think you can have both at the same time, which is a bit of a shame, but that would have been really nice. However, they have not allowed this. Next up, you're going to probably require Terminate. I say probably because it's not necessary. You could either go for a damage for an elite, or you could go for Terminate for more skilled damage. I have gone for this route because I find that I will be more likely to take out their armor whilst they're still running. You'll find that the build works really well in a training environment, and it works similar in a normal environment PVE wise, but elites tend to jump out of it, and we'll be going over ways to combat that with the mods in a little while. Right now what we're going to be focusing on is this. I also use calculated for the kills from cover reduce skill cooldowns by 20%, so even more cooldown reduction from this. The reason why I'm doing mostly on my skill cooldown reduction from calculated and skilled is mostly to do with you will very unlikely to have a problem with your chem launcher, providing you keep out Lucky Shots. I hardly ever run out of chem launchers, and I can just stand up and spam them in every single environment I've been in. But after you've got these three talents, you want to kind of have a good roll and get as much skill power as possible on these items. I got 900 on gloves, for example, 1000 on my knee pads, another 1500 on my holster, 1500 sort of on my chest. The offensive mods are not necessary. Defensive mods, I went for health because I feel like health is a bit better than armor, but you can change that how you wish. Another thing, you have even more skill power here, 1200 thanks to the utility protocol mods. If you're lucky and you get a ton of these, save them. They are really, really, really good. Next up, actual skills. There's two ways you can do this route. We can either go for the Oxidizer, which I think does more damage overall and is better for that route, or Firestarter, which may require a little more tweaking with your team to get done right. I am been talking with some friends about this idea. We're going to be looking into if it's possible to use an Oxidizer and a Firestarter together, but at that point you kind of just, half your team's pretty useless at that route. I also use on occasion the Stinger for more damage with an AoE situation if I'm going up against a boss. This is really good. However, the cooldown is a bit high and I don't think I'm lucky enough to ever get it reset. But it's also a valid choice. I usually run with a flame turret if I am not using the fire starter. So if I'm using Oxidizer, I'll use the flame turret to help me CC with that route and watch my flank in that. Otherwise, if I do use the fire starter, I usually use an explosive or cluster depending on what sort of environment we're going to be in. Usually when they're all clustered up, you could throw up an explosive and I'll hit tons of them, so the cluster would be less useful. Next up, the mods on this. I use a radius one on this one. I have not been lucky. There is other ones out there with a larger radius which I am really hoping I could get, but I very much doubt I'm going to be lucky enough before World Tier 5, which we'll be moving on to next. I also used the damage one for a similar reason. More damage, it's stronger, makes you feel like you're doing more damage and more important for the team. This build works really well in forcing elites to run around aimlessly whilst they are constantly taking damage, and with this larger radius they can't roll out of it as fast. Next up, I use +6 ammo. Again, you kind of want as much ammo as you can take. If you have tons of skill power like I do, you're going to use 6. If you don't, you're going to use 3 or 4. Either way, this build can work with less ammo, but the more higher your ammo start count is, the higher chance you are not going to run out. On the turret, I'm using extra damage, cooldown reduction, because again, we want to maintain it up as much as we can. I currently have it up for 120 seconds and down for 120 seconds. The health is quite low on this. The damage isn't very high, but it does add up. And when you've got 6k damage from fire, plus the fire damage ticking, plus the oxidizer, you're going to destroy things in solo play, and in co-op play they're going to be CC'd and your friends are going to be able to take them down really fast as well. This build is more of a support build. You will do a bit of damage, you will do tons of AoE damage, as I will show on these dummies in a little while. Might as well start now actually. As for specialization, I don't think there's any preference you need to worry about. I think there's more of an incline to go for something like the survivalism for the more damage reduction and the healing, in case you ever want to use this as a healing build, which is possible. You would use the Seeker Mine and the Chem launch healing, or you could use the drone heal, whichever you see fit. But essentially, the actual rotation for this fight is very simple. We're going to just change the difficulty up here because it doesn't look very good when we're fighting against weakened mobs. Let's put it up to the hardest difficulty. Okay, very hard. They're all lined up, so it's a bit cheesy for us, but essentially the rotation is just hold your chem launch out and just keep shooting. Because this is all they're going to do. You never run out. You continue firing. Now, thanks to lucky, the only downside to it, you have to keep it out, otherwise I would be using the chem launch and the you want to be doing just this. I start with 8 and I'm already back up to 10, so you see I will never run out. I can keep going and going and going. And with this, you're killing packs in about 3 seconds, providing you keep firing. The rotation doesn't work very well unless you are in cover though. So in PvP you may find that this doesn't work very well. When the rotation kicks in, cover factors will really fall apart. The higher radius is better, so you can have 100% radius a bit better than I will when it comes to PvP. But overall in PvE, the AoE is a good factor, but I would push towards damage in most situations. But that's about it really. The pros of this build is simply the AoE damage. It's so huge. It's when you're actually playing and fighting against creatures, you're going to see them run around in panic because they don't know where to go. Every cover is going to be stuck with this lovely oxidizer slowly ticking at their health. I found that this mixed with the flame turret is the best way to use it. Other people do use the fire starter to great effect as well. If you have a good coordination and you have a great team, this will work in a very good way as well. I think it's a bit more damage, especially when you can stack destructive and you go down the demolitionist route. I found that the ideal skill power is about 8,500 because we aren't finding any mods that are much higher than this. We will do in World Tier 5, and in that case the skill power will be easier to achieve anyway because the gear will be higher. So what I do recommend getting is as much sort of like these talents here where they've got extra skill power, and obviously it says modified so I can't use that again, but I don't see the point in using haste in this build at all.